So, hello and welcome to this summary breakdown of Ozymandias by Percy Shelley. Now, it is important to note that straight away from the title, Ozymandias, that this talks about a ruler. And so, Ozy already means like leader / ruler, and Mandas means heir or nothing. And it's important to note this because we know the context of this poem, and we know that this is about an ancient ruler who is no longer in the position of reign. So a bit about Shelley. It is important to note that he was a romantic poet, which was a very big thing around the time, and he's a very famous poet as well. Now, romantic poetry talks about, freedom, liberation, and they rejected things like organized religion, certain political stances and views and governmental things. And so Percy Shelley is definitely one to note for being a romantic poet. You see his work here, but you also see it in the love and relationships poetry anthology, in Love's Philosophy, where you really see a lot of romanticism in his work. Okay. And it's also a celebration of nature. So let's quickly go into this. So I met a traveler from an antique land. Now, it's really important to note how it talks about an antique land, somewhere very far away. It gives the impression of somewhere far away, somewhere ancient, and somewhere quite unknown, as it seems at the moment. Who said, "Two vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert." Now, I think it's really interesting to note the use of the word desert here, as it aligns with the ancient Egypt ideals, but also it creates the impression that this is lifeless. Okay. We know that deserts are very dry, they're very lifeless, which, adds to the reality of the fact that this ruler is no longer living. Okay. We can talk about the idea of the two vast and trunkless legs of stone, and we could talk about the alliteration there as well. So near them on the sand, half sunk and shattered visage lies. Okay, so we talk about that there. We already know that this means face. Okay, and it's very important, this next part of the poem, where it talks about frown, wrinkled lip, and sneer of cold command. So already here, it's really important to note that this is cacophony, or you can say alliteration as well. Now, it's important to not just know what these things are, but know the effect of these things. Now, the lip is described as being wrinkled. So the adjective here is used to describe the lip as being wrinkled. And we know that he has a frown and all these different things. Now, he was not a good ruler. And this would make sense as to why Shelley would write this, because like I said before, Shelley was really against certain things within the political space. And so him not being a good leader or treating his people well would have not fared well with Shelley and things that he believed. And so it's very clear that he's writing about this, which shows that it shows the antipathy and shows how people did not have a good image of this leader, because it was probably a dictator, somebody who's not really nice, somebody who's not really great. And we can really see that from the language that is used to describe here. Tell that his scepter well, those passions read, which yet survived, stamped on these lifeless things. So again, the idea of the lifeless, the hand that mocked them. So already there, that really emphasizes, the idea that people will not have much sympathy for this leader, because he seems to have been somebody who has mocked them and has not really treated them well, and things like that. And a pedestal, those words appear. My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Now, already here is really important to note, like I mentioned in the beginning, about the name Ozymandias and what it means. So name and meaning are important to note here, but also the idea of the King of Kings, which goes against biblical references, as we know that Jesus, or the Lord, is referred to as the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. So, we can see some kind of like hubris that is being exuded here with this. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair. So again, it just emphasizes the hubris that we can already see that he probably already has as a leader or as a dictator, because he says, look on my works. So, that possessive pronoun being used there, really shows that he believes that he has all of this power. Nothing beside remains round the decay of the colossal wreck, boundless and bare. So already there, the alliterative phrase boundless and bare just creates the impression that, all this power that you, said that you have, now you're no longer power. Now you no longer have that power and you're powerless. Lone and level sand stretch far away. So, it's like he's making a commentary, all of this power that you had. It's like we're going on a journey. We see how this ruler is. We can see from the expression in the statue. We can see that he mocked people. He wasn't great. Then we see that on the base of the pedestal where it's been dropped, because already there we know it's half sunk. It says King of Kings and Ozymandias and all these kind of things. And yet then we have the effect of the short sentence here that says nothing beside remains. That short sentence is very powerful there, because it just lets us know that all that power is now gone around the decay of the colossal wreck. So, it's a wreck now, being described as a wreck. It's a colossal wreck, is decaying, it's dying, is withering into the ground. It no longer has the power that it had before. Which is really important to note. This is only supposed to be a summary video, so there's a lot more that we can break down here, but we'll leave it here. But it is important to also note the structure of this, as it is only one stanza, which could also reflect the image of that statue. But we can go further into this in our further breakdown. But this is just to help you if you have an exam